I was at Derby County as an apprentice, so aged 16, 17, 2 years full-time at Derby. Then I went to Bury for a year, went to Sweden for a year, played for a team called Husqvarna FF in Sweden. And then I came back and had one or two injuries that weren't decisive on their own, but sort of contributed really to the fact that I realised that I wasn't going to have a career at the level I wanted to, and therefore it made me think about going into coaching. I felt that if I started early enough, then I could become a better coach than probably I would have had a career as a player. When I was at Derby, we used to do one session a week in the community programme that the lads actually got a couple of extra quid for doing from the club. And I enjoyed it. And then I got involved with independent centres of excellence at the Cheshire Football Development Scheme in Macclesfield, Wilmslow, Northwich, and those areas around Cheshire, Trafford. And again, was enjoying it more and more with a higher level of kid. At the independent centres, it was more selection rather than just, you could pay to come on a course. And then it went from there, really. I was less than 45 minutes from Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Everton. But also, if you're moving downwards, Aston Villa, the clubs in the Midlands, West Brom, Derby, etc. So a real hotbed of football, and a good place to learn my trade, really. Already had experience full-time as a youth coach by that point, at 21. And I think at the time, only Graham Taylor had been younger to get the award or the equivalent award. It was the full badge then. Obviously now it's the UEFA A. So it was pretty clear straight away that this was the best road for me. I recommended a player that was taken, which sort of got me in. And then I was invited to watch some training. I was invited to take some training. That became one night, became 2 nights, became 3. An opportunity full-time arose, and I was really keen to do that. So that's really how it came about. As far as my development was concerned, I mean, the beauty of the period I was there was that I experienced coaching under 6, under 7-year-old kids in the pre-academy, right through to the senior team and everything in between. And, being able to see, 7, 8, 9-year-old kids eventually playing at 21, 22 in the Premier League, which happened with a, reasonable level of frequency, was a great education as to, what it took and what was required at certain age groups to go through and become a player. So players like Danny Murphy and Dean Ashton, for example, that had been with the club from a very young age, to see them develop all the way through, was particularly satisfying, firstly, but also very educational. You can tell young in terms of there's the physical aspect, which is really decisive in terms of your observation, in my opinion, anyway. And with somebody like Dean wasn't very good physically at 13, 14 years of age, but technically he was fantastic, struck the ball very cleanly with both feet, good quality footballer, but we weren't sure how he was going to evolve physically, and heavy, not athletic. His mentality was good, so you thought he had the mental attributes that normally, if you have those as a young player, that's how you will be as as you mature into a man. What Dean did do was he worked very hard at improving his physical condition, and 15, 16, 17, 18, you could see that he was going to be fine physically, which was really the defining point with him. Of course, at Crewe in the Championship, as it was then, you're in the first team early. So, 16, 17, those boys were getting experience in the Championship at a good level. In Danny's case, more obvious earlier that physically he was going to have good attributes. Technically, of course, again, you don't need to be Einstein to see talent. You could see the brain, you could see the talent. The big thing really with Danny was the mentality. He had strong opinions on what the first team were doing, never mind what his team were doing. So you can never be sure with the opportunity that they get, and of course injuries can come into play. But both really were a good bet from a fairly young age that they would go on to have good careers. At that time at the club in the Championship, there were 7, 8, 9, 10 players from the academy playing in the first team every Saturday. And at one point we were 7th in the Championship, so just on the brink of the playoffs. We played Leeds United on New Year's Day at Leeds, won the game with 10 players from the academy in the first team. And at that moment was probably the closest that we got to the full dream being alive, if you like, of going into the Premier League with a team of completely homegrown players, which of course won't have happened before or since. Unfortunately, players were sold afterwards. It was the January window, Dean being one of the more significant ones there, and the team fell away, and the rest is history, as they say. But I think being part of that, the culture that creates at your club, and when we recruited from outside, those players quickly embraced the strong culture that had been developed. So experiencing that and seeing that and the advantages that brings, also had a big part in my evolution as a coach. I had joined Stoke as the academy manager from Crewe, who really wanted me to do a similar job there to the job that I'd done at Crewe. And right at the end of a 6-month probation period, which was standard fare in the contract, it wasn't something that, to be fair to Stoke, either they or I had asked for. I had a phone call from Chelsea, from Frank Arneson, asking me that, would I be interested in taking the reserves, which is what it was at the time, not the 23s, it was the reserves, and working closely with Carlo Ancelotti on, they had a group of kids, Daniel Sturridge, Fabio Borini, there were a few others, Josh McEachran, Patrick Van Aanholt, that they felt could evolve and progress. And there would be times where they'd be training with the first team, but there'd also be times where they'd be playing with the reserves, and they wanted somebody who had experience of development, but also working with senior players to see if they could bridge that gap, if you like. So I have to say Stoke were very good. It was only 2 or 3 days before that 6-month probation had finished, so it was easy in effect, in that there was no compensation or anything that was necessary. And I did a week at Stoke, and then went down to London. I mean, at that time it was a little bit different to as it is now, even, but a complete contrast to life at Crewe, where all the kids were from 1 hour away. So kids from Liverpool, kids from Manchester, kids from the Midlands. At Chelsea, it was a global group. I had Gökhan Töre from Turkey, Jacopo Sala, Fabio Borini from Italy, Patrick Van Aanholt from Holland, Daniel Sturridge, of course, who was English but had been at City all of his career. So a completely different ball game in terms of understanding the different personalities, the different cultures, finding a way of communicating and getting through to players. Totally different challenge, but one that I enjoyed, and one that really stood me in good stead when I had the opportunity to go and work with the first team, because Chelsea is an English club playing in the English league, but is very much a European club in respect of the players and the coaching staff usually that are involved working with the team. So I think that was a vital educational period that I had that definitely helped me when I progressed into the first team.